I'm right in the middle of doing a resurrection on this 1938 Parker Challenger, and I have my Workbench out, and I got something in the mail, so I'll do an unboxing with my Workbench setup. Another package from China. I've got a feeling I know what this is. See through there, maybe you can't. It says Asvine, Asvine, your choice. That's more like it. This is an Asvine. That's what I'm saying, Asvine. And there's no designation on the box at all. So let's open it up. I do know what this is. This is an Asvine new vacuum filler, the V200. I made a deal with Sally over on Easy Buy. These aren't available on Easy Buy yet on Etsy, but they're available for a good deal more, I think, on Amazon. Pen instruction manual in English. Very good instructions. They're really improving on this. How to do a vacuum filler. Oh, eyedropper as well, converter, ink cartridge, so one brochure fits all. And we have another Asvine wrench. I've got about 4 of these now. And here's the pen. And in its plastic pouch. And that's very nice. This is a V200 vacuum filler, titanium and clear acrylic. Titanium clip. Hey, it's flexible. I see a couple of silicone O-rings here, which means this might post on the end of that vac knob. And there's the knob. Oh, there's a nice bevel there that reaches up to the diameter of the barrel, and a nice pull on that. So that feels nice and strong. And it's got the extra little gasket on the front right there, so when you close the knob down, it plugs that hole and keeps ink from flowing. So if you have a vac filler like this, remember to unscrew that knob to let the ink from this reservoir flow into that one. And let's see, 1 3/4 turns, and the section comes off. Well, what do you know? Titanium section, that's nice. O-ring right there, easy to get at for maintenance, so you don't have to disassemble the pen. Let's give this vacuum a try here. Yep. Pop. Pop goes the vac fill. Very nice. And is it flatted along here? Yeah. So these threads have a flat right there. See that? So you can put a wrench on that to unscrew it from the barrel. So that's all very nice. Very well made. I've been very impressed with Asvine and their construction methods. This is an Asvine medium nib, plastic feed, and let's check to see if that nib comes out. Yes, it does. So it's part of an unscrewable nib assembly, and there we have it. So I had a viewer just yesterday ask me, because their V200 wasn't sucking up ink, and I asked him to check to see that his nib unit had 2 O-rings on it, and there's one right there, silicone O-ring, but this is the major one right there. That large silicone ring right back there is what sits in the bottom of that section. That little acrylic seat right there, that's what pushes up against this and maintains the vacuum. So he was saying that he doesn't get any suction. He gets suction out of this, so it makes a popping noise like that, but it's not sucking up any ink. So I suspected that that O-ring right there at the base was missing. You need both of those O-rings to maintain that vacuum to suck up ink. Okay, there's the V200 designation, laser etched on the cap band. This is going to be an excellent candidate for a anodization. I did this on the P36, and here's the P36. It's hard to tell in these bright lights, but you can see how I've anodized that titanium to be rather blue. It's very silver in its natural form. There's the section. And we can see that the sections are almost identical. In fact, I'd say they are identical. And we'll be able to find that out just by doing a cap swap. Let's swap the P36. Yep, there's the P36 cap on the V200. And here's the V200 cap on the P36 piston filler. So yeah, they are using the same section, same nib. I'm not sure that the feed is the same. Let's see. Yeah, so it's identical. The units here are identical. Same O-ring on the back and the front on the P36 as on the V200. So the whole front of this pen on the V200 is identical to the P36. So you can see what the anodization has done to that section. Made it a nice blue color, which I really like. There we go, so you can see how much difference there is in size. There's not a lot of difference in size. It looks like this one's bigger because it goes out cylindrically to flat ends, whereas this is tapered. But they're almost identical on length. Let's see how the V200 posts. Yeah, it posts right on that vacuum knob, and those O-rings engage with the barrel. It makes it a very long pen and back-weighted, but I think that's very clever of them to put a couple of silicone O-rings on the back. There's a couple of other pens that do that. And I'll be interested to see if this comes apart, to see whether I can get that clip off. So far, I'm very impressed with how this V200 looks and feels. So I've just unboxed this Asvine V200 vacuum filler, and I thought, well, let's take it to pieces. I want to see how it comes apart, because eventually I might want to anodize that titanium like I did on my Asvine P36 piston filler. So you can take the cap off, of course, and you can take the nib unit out. It unscrews, and you can take the section off, which is good. You don't have to disassemble it any more than this, folks, really, to clean it out. You don't have to take this piston out, but inquiring minds want to know. So let's retract that, and you see those flats right there on those threads. That means you can put your crescent wrench, adjustable wrench, spanner, whatever you might want to call it, in your neck of the woods, and you give that a turn, and then it should come right out. Oh, and that titanium ring is loose there. There's the barrel, and there's the vacuum mechanism, and there's that titanium ring. And does it come off? Yeah, it comes off. So do not lose that, and just leave it on that rod. You can probably take this apart a little bit further. You can see that there's a slotted nut inside that cap that, if you have the right tool, here's one for a Schaefer that I got from Pen Tooling to take the blind cap off. But if I wanted to make my own tool, I'd take tweezers like this and grind them down so that they're the right. Whoops, I lost that titanium ring again. And it only goes on one direction. It's different on the back side. It's concave on the back side. Oops, it's concave the other direction, because that fits in to that little ledge on the end of the barrel. Yep, fits right on the end. So that only goes on one way. There's two O-rings there on this mechanism that you can put some silicone grease on. There's the piston itself, the rubber piston, silicone piston. Spins around. You can put some grease on that. And there's the little plug gasket that plugs into the end of the section right there to plug the ink flow. And when you unscrew it, it backs off and allows the ink to flow. And you screw it tight, and then it won't burp on you when you're on an aircraft if you tighten that up and block the ink flow. But one thing I noticed when I open this up here, is that this is identical, I think, to a Pen BBS 456 vacuum filler mechanism. So here's my, this is beautiful. Here's my Pen BBS 456 in Tootsie. Let's take its vac out. Has the same flatted threads as on the Asvine. Now, do those look like they were made in the same place? There's a slight difference in terms of the stopper. It is a beveled piece of silicone on that one, where this is a round O-ring type stopper, but the hardware is identical. So I'm wondering, will this fit? Let's put that ring on first. There we go. And let's put the 456 in here. Yeah, I'm not sure that those threads are the same. Yeah, they are. It's just tight. Let's see whether this goes in here. Those threads don't mesh. Yeah, we don't need to swap them, but it does show that they are the same part, more or less. That back in the 456, then I'm just holding the wrench and turning the barrel hand tight. And let's see how much further we can take this apart. I wanted to see whether I could take that cap clip off. Okay, so here we go. Got my mat. And I'm going to get a little bit of a card here and just put it under that clip. Make sure I don't scratch the barrel as I turn it. Is it turning? Yep, it's turning. There we go. So there we go. There's that titanium clip and the top titanium finial and a little collar that sits down inside there with the notch on it. That goes into the notch of the clip, like that. So there we have it, the V200 Asvine in pieces. You can take this apart further by pulling the nib out of there. I'm going to put my gripper on the nib and feed collar, and then wrap some more gripper around the shoulders of the nib. And then I'm going to grab that and push my knuckles together and pull in opposite directions. There, well, that was pretty easy actually. And there's our feed, and there's our nib collar with the silicone O-ring right there, and another smaller silicone O-ring right there at the head of the collar. And you can see that the feed is keyed, which is good. There's a key on the back of the feed right there that lines up with that and goes in and out. And that is a standard number 6 size nib right there. This is a medium. And here are some other number 6 size nibs I've got sitting around. Here's a medium Leonardo. That's a Bach, actually, back when they were doing Bach. And here is a Jinhao, number 6 size. I think that's probably a medium, I'm not sure. And here's a lemon. And that is a Naginata Togi style nib. So if I wanted to put that nib in the Asvine, I would use the Asvine's nib and feed collar and feed, line it up like that, line up the key, push it in, and there you go. Now the Asvine V200 has a lemon nib. Let me put that back in the section. There we go. So to put it all back together again, while we're putting it back together again, we can add some silicone grease to those threads. There's a little bit of silicone grease. It's actually like silicone oil. This is from Twisby, I think. And we're just going to put a drop right there, and we can put that in the barrel. And that just assures that there's no leakage. And then when we put this back in, there's a couple of places where you can lubricate and seal. Want to put some silicone grease or oil on those 2 silicone O-rings right there, and on those threads to keep from leaking, and on that piston just to keep it sliding nicely up and down inside the barrel. So 1, 2, 3 locations for oil here. So a drop there, a drop there, a drop there. There's going to be one more place. I'm going to grease. Let's do this first. Spread it around evenly. And tighten this down. Again, I'm holding the wrench and turning the barrel until it's hand tight. Then, just run that up and down there to get that grease distributed. And then I'll put a little bit right here on this rod. There we go. Now let's put the cap clip together. Find that ring with the notch in it and put it inside the top finial. Then I'm going to put this on top of that post. I put a card in there so I don't scratch the barrel. While I line this up, drop that ring on top of the clip so that the notch matches. And then get that thread started. And while it's still loose, line it up with Asvine. And without moving it, tighten it down. There we go. Now, one thing that might happen is that your nib doesn't line up with the clip. If you've got OCD, that's bothersome. So I'm going to mark where it should be with my thumb on the barrel, and then take the cap off and roughly see where it needs to go. The problem is that this is a keyed nib unit, and if I turn it around, it loosens it in there, and it might leak, but we'll see whether that leaks or not. If it does, then there's nothing I can do about it, because that nib collar is keyed. I can't just position that nib anywhere I want inside the collar. So I have to back it off a little bit, which loosens it. So we'll see. There, it's not bad. If it doesn't leak there, I'm good. And of course, do as I say, not as I do. I forgot to put that ring back on. You were probably all shouting at your television screens or your computer screens or your phones and saying, Doug, you forgot, you forgot. All right, I forgot. And put your poison pens away because I remembered. I'm going to put it on the back there, and back in we go. Put a ring on it, and in you go. And that's what she said.
That's what she said.
Excellent.
I made this.